I don't know if you've ever hosted a big meal in your home. Maybe it was Christmas Day. We know how stressful the Christmas Day meal can be. Maybe it was Easter Sunday or Mother's Day. I bet it wasn't as significant as this meal here, the Last Supper. It's a pretty significant meal. Imagine hosting this meal in your house. Imagine the pressure on the timings of the veg, it would be stressful. But we're going to hang out in this moment, and not necessarily the meal, but we're going to hang out in a moment of what it looked like to host this meal, because this is probably the most significant meal in human history, and it's quite a historic moment, and we quite like, as humans, being present in historic moments. We quite like moments where we get to go, like, I was there, I was part of that. I'm sure you can remember where you were when significant events happened, or when you got to be part of a significant moment. I remember in 2016, I went to Glastonbury Festival. It was the weekend that the Brexit results were announced, and so the whole place was fizzing. And we got to be there right at the very front when Coldplay performed. It's on the next slide. And they closed out the festival, and it was like an iconic moment in British music, and we were right at the front. It was incredible. It was all going off, and I remember, like, anytime I see it come up on the telly now, I'm like, I was there. I was there for that. In 2002, England played Greece to qualify for the World Cup, and I got to be there. David Beckham scored an incredible last-minute free kick, and I was there as a 16-year-old as part of I went with my school, so my English teacher was part of the England schoolboys setup, and so he got a bunch of us tickets, and so a bunch of scally scousers in Liverpool and Everton kits went along to Manchester, ready to kick off. It was great, and we were like, who are you looking at? And all that. It was great, and we're there, and David Beckham scores this goal, and literally this row here is my school, and so you can see some of my teachers here. You can see me mate Cassidy there. You can tell him because we all skittered him because he had a big fat head. And like, anytime I see that goal, I'm like, I was there. And it's funny now because I'm not that big an England fan, but people are like, how are you even there for that? But we like being present for historic moments, don't we? We like to go, I was there. And I think we're in a historic moment as a church. And so if you're new today, if you are someone who's checking out church and watching us online for the first time, I want to just, if you forgive me for a moment, I want to talk to the churchy people in the room and online, because I think at the moment we're in a really historic season that I think we'll look back on in maybe 5, 10 years' time, and we'll all get to say, I was there. You know, at the moment, over the last few years, we are breaking all kinds of records. We are seeing more people join Alpha. We've currently got more people signed up for our summer Alpha than we've ever had before. We've got more people being baptized than we've ever baptized. 4 years in a row, we're on course this year again to break our record for the amount of people baptized in a single year. We're seeing all kinds of statistics being broken. And you might not know that we count how many people are in the room every week. That's not because we're obsessed with figures and numbers. We want to be able to see the trends and see the momentum and be able to accurately, look at the strategic picture. And we count people because we believe that people count. And every number represents an individual. So when you hear us talk about records, we are celebrating not just the numbers, but the individuals behind those numbers as well. But I've got some more stats because I like stats. On average in Halesowen, since the turn of the year, our first service, so the 9:45 service, on average has been 96% full. On average, at our second service, our 11:30 service, it has been, on average, 76% full. Now, experts used to say pre-COVID that once a room was 80% full, it was full. Now, since COVID, that's changed to 70% full. And so our statistics tell us that we are full. But you don't need me to tell that, because you know that we're full. You feel it. You've sat in the back half and you've felt the armpits of the person next to you as they worship. You've felt the heat of the room. You've heard us say, can you move down the rows? You know that we are full because you've experienced it. I don't need to tell you percentages to tell you that we are full. It really does feel like that. But here's the thing, guys. Lifecentral Church's aim is not to be full. We're not after filling a room. Our goal and our aim as Lifecentral Church is to help people find and follow Jesus. That's why we exist as a church. And we realize that at the moment, we've reached a ceiling on how many people that we can help to find and follow Jesus. And so we need to make room, which is the series that we're talking about. And we're going to talk about how we can spiritually and internally make room, and we can make room as people. But we also, as a church, need to make room. And so today is a historic day that you get to say, I was there, because today we're announcing that from the 7th of June, our new service times will be 9:30, 11 o'clock, and 12:30. We are adding a third service here in Halesowen. Now, you're smart people. You probably knew that. This isn't a surprise. You probably knew that last week, Easter Sunday, that was a little trial event. You know that because you're smart people. And last week went so well, both spiritually. We saw 43 people make decisions to follow Jesus. We saw nearly 1,400 people here on site. Nearly 300 people came to the 12:30 service, which is about 200 more people than the leadership team were expecting. The logistics outside that we were worried about went really, really well. Last week was a really good pilot and a test event. Now, we know that not every Sunday is going to be like Easter Sunday, and so we're committed to the direction of making room for more people. But the plan might change. And so we're not saying these are the service times that they're going to be forever and amen. This is like, we're going to try this and we're going to see if it works, and we're going to try some things, and we're not expecting to be perfect off the bat. But what we're saying is we're going to go on a journey, and what does it look like as a church to make room for more people? And so that's why we're adding that service in. And over the next 5 weeks, we're going to talk about how we practically make room and how we spiritually and internally make room as well. Now, if you're not a churchy person and you've tuned out, come back off Instagram, come back into the room. Because before we go forwards, I want us to go back to a moment where somebody made room for a moment. And it is that Passover Last Supper meal that we're going to look at. And it says, on the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, that's important, put a little bookmark there, when it was customary to sacrifice the Passover lamb, Jesus' disciples asked him, where do you want us to go and make preparations for you to eat the Passover? So where do you want us to make room for you to eat? So he sent 2 of his disciples, telling them, and this is really interesting what Jesus does, because it's kind of like Airbnb type descriptions. If you've ever had an Airbnb, you know when you get those like arrival instructions, Jesus says this, he says, go into the city and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. It's like, you know, when you get to the blue gate, turn left, follow him. Then he says, say to the owner of the house he enters, the teacher asks, where is my guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? He will show you a large room upstairs, furnished and ready. Make preparations for us there. The disciples left, went into the city, and found things just as Jesus told them. So they prepared the Passover. It's a really funny story and an interesting moment that often we miss when we think about that moment of the Last Supper, the night before Jesus was arrested. And I think there's a few different reactions that may well have happened here. And often when I read the Bible, I like to put myself in there and go, what did it feel like? What was the emotions like? What did it smell like in that moment? And I think the first reaction that you've probably got is the owner of the house. The owner of the house who's delighted that this Jesus fella wants to come and have food at his house. He's buzzing about it. He's like, yeah, of course we can. Yeah, come. Yeah. He's dead excited. He is all in. He's seeing what's possible before he thinks about the job list. He says, yes, I am all in, because he is an early adopter. And when it comes to change, many of us will be early adopters. Many of us will be the people who download the latest iPhone update the day it is available. Many of us are open to new ideas and new things. We like change and we're buzzing to have it around. Many of us are early adopters, and when we hear a new idea, we think, I'm all in. And maybe for you, that's how you feel when you first came to church. Maybe today, that's how you feel coming and checking it out, and like you're ready to say yes. You're ready to go all in. You're ready to say, hey, I want to give this God stuff a try. Or maybe how you feel when it comes to me announcing that we're doing a third service in Halesowen. You're like, yes, come on. You were the first to start the applause. You were like, yeah, sign me up, get me there. Listen, if you want to sign up for something, I've got something for you to sign up for if you're an early adopter. Because we need people to join our Sunday Dream Team. And now we've got a Dream Team that serves all the way through the week. But in order to facilitate 3 services, we need more people to help us on a Sunday. And so if you're already all in, you can sign up now. Scan that QR code there. It's also on the QR code of the chair in front of you. We need lots more people to help us facilitate those 3 services on a Sunday. For example, our car park team, we need 16 more people to join our car park team. And can I just say, the car park team have done a magnificent job this morning. Like, looking after, with the triathlon going on, they haven't even got a seat in the room. They're sat in a room watching this via a screen. That's how great our car park team are. If you want to join the elite, join our car parking team. But we've got loads more. I'm asking all of our team, how many more people do we think we need? We need people to get involved and help us. And if you sign up, I've got a little invitation for you. Because on the 10th of July, we are going to be hosting our Dream Team Festival. So if you are part of the Dream Team, this is our Dream Team party. And this year, we're bringing the festival vibes. We're going to be in the summer. We're going to decorate outside and inside. We're going to have a bunch of live acts. We're going to be serving all kinds of fun and activities to go on. And this is to celebrate and thank our Dream Team. And so if you sign up, you get an invite. If you're already on the team, you get an invite, and we're going to celebrate and do that together. But I know that there's other reactions to change. See, the owner of the house probably had a wife, and when his wife, he comes and he says, Jesus is coming, and he's bringing 12 of his mates. And she's like, what do you mean 13 men are coming for tea tonight? The Tesco shop doesn't come till tomorrow. Like, she's stressing out. She's asking the questions. She's thinking through the logistics. She's not necessarily opposed to it. She's not against it. She's just after clarity. She's asking questions. She's thinking about the detail because she is the processor. And maybe you come to church and you are interested in it, but you think, it's too early for me to go all in. Maybe you're processing and you've got questions. Alpha would be absolutely perfect for you that we talked about earlier. But, maybe when it comes to change and thinking about a third service, some of you are already going, what's the questions? What about this? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about that? That is absolutely okay. Of course, we need to think about that. You're not resistant to it, but you just feel the weight of change. And then there's maybe the servants. In a house like this, it was likely that there would have been like house staff, people who weren't involved in the process of making the decision, but feel the weight of it and feel the stress of it. You see, they're not thinking, yes, Jesus is coming. They're thinking, I've got to change my plans. I've got to work harder. I've got to work later, because they are the reluctant participants. And, if we can have that next slide on the reluctant participants, you see, maybe some of you are sitting there going, well, hang on a minute. That means I've got to change. That means it's already hard enough to get here on time with all the kids and everything. Now you're saying I've got to get here earlier or get here later. I've got to stay later. I don't really want to change. I've not been, I'm kind of reluctant to this, but we'll go along with it anyway. You see, it's important to note that in any change process, we will all react differently and respond differently. Some of us will get excited, some will feel overwhelmed, some will feel interrupted. But here's the key thing. When Jesus asks for room, not everybody reacts in the same way. If we could have that next slide that says that, that would be great. When Jesus asks for room, not everyone reacts the same way. And I've been all of those things in this process. We've been in these conversations since January, and I've been all of those things. Sometimes in the space of one-hour meeting, I've been all three of those things. I've I've been like, yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to reach more people, yeah. And then we've got into the detail, and I've gone, can we not? Can we not just take all the chairs out? Because we can fit 800 people in here with no chairs. But I'm told none of you would come if there was no chairs. If you're up for that, come see me later. We'll start a revolution. No, I'm joking. But here's the beauty. No matter where we're at, Jesus still builds his plan with all of them in the house. And Jesus invites us all to go on this journey together. And if Jesus is still building his plan, then Jesus is across the details. There's a really interesting little detail that we can easily miss in this story. You see, it was the festival of unleavened bread. It was the Passover time. The city would have been absolutely packed. The hotels would have been fully booked. Airbnb prices would have been through the roof. And yet, Jesus gives these really specific directions and says there's a room that's furnished for us and ready for us. How did Jesus know? We don't get to see that detail. Did Jesus just omnisciently know? Because he's all-knowing and know that there would be a room there? Or was the last time that he was in the city, did he make a booking? Did he go and sort it out with the fella and say, look, in a few months' time, I'm going to need this room. Can you make sure it's ready? And da-da-da-da-da. We don't know. But what we do know is that Jesus wasn't reacting. He was ahead. Jesus was ahead of the moment that was being asked of them. And you see, I think when it comes to change, Jesus has already gone ahead of us. Jesus has gone ahead of us and created room because there is room for all of us. Lots of you who are coming to us and have come to us in the last couple of years, we're hearing your stories and hearing that you're experiencing God and Jesus irrespective of Lifecentral Church. We're hearing stories of people having dreams about Jesus, waking up and feeling the urge to read the Bible, finding a post on social media and thinking, is God speaking to me? People are having encounters with God and Jesus irrespective of Lifecentral Church. But what I love is that Jesus then is leading these people, and some of you are those people, and saying, you should check Lifecentral Church out because they've prepared a room for you. They've prepared space for you. In fact, last Sunday, I was out in the atrium, and just before our third service started, two girls arrived, and it was clear that they were new to us, that they'd not been before. And so I introduced myself, I passed them on, and introduced them to some of our hosting team who helped them get a seat. I was giving out the You Said Yes booklets at the end, and both of them responded and said yes to Jesus in that moment, which was brilliant. They then, on the Monday, messaged us on social media and said, it was a last-minute decision, we loved it, and we're coming again this week, and I hope you're here today. Here's the thing, that was the first time that we'd ever done a third service, and these two girls made a last-minute decision. They didn't tell me what time, but I made a last-minute decision to come to a service that was a one-off as far as they knew. Because I think Jesus said to them, go to Lifecentral Church, because I've worked with them and they've prepared room for you. And Jesus offers us all an invitation, and I want you to know that Jesus has made room for every one of us. And if you're looking and exploring faith, Jesus has made room for you. And he gives this invitation to the disciples, and he says this to them. He says, come follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people. A lot of the disciples were fishermen. He was using a bit of a metaphor there. But what he's saying is, I've made room so that you can follow me, and together we'll make room to help other people follow me too. And we really feel like we're following Jesus on this edition of a third service. We feel like it's not like our strategic idea that we're going, God, would you bless it? We're almost kind of catching up to what Jesus is already doing. And we're making adjustments for that. And the context to this Last Supper meal is really interesting because they're sitting down to celebrate Passover. Passover was a really significant meal for Jews. It was marking and celebrating when God brought the Israelites up out of slavery, out of Egypt, and into the desert to therefore go into the promised land. And it wasn't just any meal. These are two of the most pivotal meals in the history of humanity. And what God and Jesus do through these meals and these moments is he prepares them for what's next. Because I think we're on the verge of something huge as a church. In fact, nationally, we're on the verge of something huge. And I think that God doesn't move without first making room in people. And I think God wants to prepare us to make room. The story of the Passover, it was called the Festival of Unleavened Bread, because at the moment before the Israelites were released out of Egypt, there wasn't time for them to put yeast into the bread and wait for it to rise like it normally did. They just had to put it in and take it without the yeast and have flat bread, essentially, because there wasn't time to wait for the convenience of the bread to rise. And it feels like timing is of the essence. Nationally, we are in a moment, a cultural moment, that I don't want to miss, that we don't want to miss, that it feels like we can't wait till it's convenient. Does it feel a little bit daft that we're launching a third service in the summertime when lots of people go on holiday? Yes. We're a little bit like, why aren't we waiting? Because time is of the essence. Because we don't want to miss the moment that God is preparing in our nation. And the Last Supper is a meal that Jesus uses to prepare his disciples for what's next. He takes a towel and he wraps it around his waist and he washes his disciples' feet because he says, hey, this is what leadership is. This is how we go from here. He's preparing them for what is next. And then he changes some of the Passover meal. And it says that Jesus, he took the bread and gave thanks and broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. You see, he's taken the bread that we call communion, that we're going to take part in together in a few minutes, and he's saying, this bread represents my body, which is going to be broken for you. Every time you gather together, when you meet together, I want you to make room for a moment to remember that I made room for you. And then it says, in the same way, after the supper, he took the cup, saying, this cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you. And that's why we drink juice and we take a moment to remember that Jesus made room for us. You see, Jesus, in this moment, he's preparing the disciples for change. Because in this moment, they were never together like this ever again. Judas goes off and betrays Jesus. Jesus goes off and dies and rises again. Like, things are never the same after this moment. And so Jesus puts in a moment in history and says, from this point on, when you get together, make room for me because I made room for you. And so I want to ask, can you create room? Can you create room in your heart, in your life, for the one who made room for you? There's one final character that I think exists in this story, and that's the guests. The guests that turn up, the disciples that turn up, that weren't part of the preparations. They didn't feel the panic. They didn't feel the stretch. They went there for the shop and they didn't carry the cost. But they experienced the outcome. They walked into a room that was furnished and ready for them to experience the meal. And that's what it's all about. You know, the first day that you stepped into Lifecentral Church or Zion Christian Centre or the Zion Methodist Chapel or the ladies' front room where this church all started from, you stepped in and you hadn't carried the cost. You hadn't experienced the stretch to that point. But you walked in and there was a chair for you. There was a space for you that somebody had set up, that somebody had maybe paid for. See, somebody made room for you so that you could experience the freedom that Jesus offers. And you see, in my experience of God and in my experience of this church, I think God always does this. He asks some people to make room so that others can experience freedom. And I think that's what God's asking of us. Can we make room physically and practically and logistically? But also, can we make room in our hearts? There's one tiny little detail that I want to pull out, and then we're going to take communion together. See, Jesus says, there's a man carrying a jar of water. Go and find him and follow him. That feels fairly normal to us. But actually in those times, that was quite distinctive, because often it was the women that were carrying water. And so the disciples go and they're looking for something distinctive. They're looking for something that stands out. And Jesus sends the disciples to that person because Jesus knows that they're a person that has a room available. They're a person that has made room for what Jesus needs to happen next. I don't know about you, but I want to be a person that Jesus points at and says, go to him, because he's made room for what I want to happen next. I want people to be encountering Jesus and thinking, well, how do I take a next step? And Jesus go, listen, there's a bald Scouse guy. Go and find him. He'll help you. I want you to be the person who's the person in your office that somebody else is thinking about Jesus. And Jesus whispers to them, go and talk to them because they know me. They've made room. I want you to be the mum at the school gates that Jesus says, go and talk to that mum because they've made room. They can help you take the next step. I want you to be the kid in your class or your school. The other teenagers have got these questions and they're finding stuff on TikTok. And Jesus and God say to them, go and speak to this person because they're part of Lifecentral Church and they've made room for you. I want us to be a church full of people that have made room. That when people in our community and our world are asking questions of Jesus, Jesus trusts us enough to go, why don't you go and talk to them? Go and talk to them because they've made room for me. So I want to invite you on an exciting adventure over the next few months as we collectively make room, to maybe individually make room as well. And we're going to talk through this series how we practically do that. And the guys coming after me are going to dig into some stuff, but I'm excited for what God's doing in this church. I'm excited to be part of it. It feels a historic moment. And so in order to prepare us, we're going to take a moment to make room for the one who made room for us. And we're going to take communion together. And so I want to invite you to stand to your feet because we're going to do this one standing. And if you're watching at home, you can join us, find something that represents bread and juice and join us in this communion moment. We're not going to serve it yet, so just hold off for a moment. Our team are going to hand it down in a moment when we start singing, and they're going to hand the plates down the row. Please take 2 cups so they're double stacked. So there's bread and there's juice together. It's gluten-free bread, so you don't need to worry about that. And you can take those 2 as we start to sing. And when you're ready, take a moment to reflect and remember that Jesus made room for you. And let's make room for him in this moment. So let me pray, and then we're going to take communion together. Jesus, I thank you that you make room for us. Jesus, I thank you for the many people that are finding faith in you, not just in this church, but in churches all around the country. I thank you for the great problem that we have, that we need to find a way to add a 3rd service. But Jesus, we know that none of that is possible without you, without your sacrifice, without you and your body being broken and your blood being shed. And so, God, in this moment, as we sing, as we worship, as we do what you invited us to do, to make room for the one who made room for us, Jesus, I pray that you would be present in this room. So, God, we pray that you would continue to speak to us in your mighty name. Amen. Amen. We're going to sing a great song, and as we do, let's take communion together.